let's get into the news. So I read this article this morning, and when I say I read this article this morning, that means I looked at the headline and then lolled and then read like the first paragraph and was like, I'll read the rest of it on the show because the show is in like 5 minutes. So I'm just going to do it on the show. So let's read. So exclusive from Reuters, Proud Boy leader was prolific informer for law enforcement. Now, there are two ways to read this. Reading it in one way is that Enrique Tarrio was an op to basically get dirt on the Proud Boys and then sell them out. That is reading number one. Reading number two is that he has law enforcement experience, and that is one of the reasons why he joined a white supremacist militia, to utilize the law enforcement experience to assist them with, for example, the Proud Boys will go to any protest at any point, and the cops will always have their back every single time. Charlottesville, you look at any of the protests in D.C. or, that kind of stuff. Portland, Seattle, whenever Proud Boys show up, the cops are always right there to back them up. So there are two ways to read this. We'll see how it develops, but I'm going to read the full story. It's a 7-minute read. I can beat that. Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys extremist group, has a past as an informer for federal and local law enforcement, repeatedly working undercover for investigators after he was arrested in 2012, according to a former prosecutor and transcript of a 2014 federal court proceeding obtained by Reuters. In the Miami hearing, a federal prosecutor, a Federal Bureau of Investigation agent, and Tarrio's own lawyer described his undercover work and said he had helped authorities prosecute more than a dozen people in various cases involving drugs, gambling, human smuggling. Well, good on him if that's actually the case. Tarrio, in an interview with Reuters Tuesday, denied working undercover or cooperating in cases against others. I don't know any of this, he said when asked about the transcript. I don't recall any of this. So, now we do know that law enforcement and the CIA would administer, LSD to people as a way to try to, change their brain. They thought it was a truth serum in the 70s and 80s. So it's totally possible they had some lying around, gave it to Enrique Tarrio, and then he just forgot all of it. It's just whoops, whoops, right? He just doesn't recall. Personally, if I had a multiple year stint working with law enforcement, I personally think that that's a memorable thing in my life, but that's just me. Law enforcement officials and the court transcript contradict Tarrio's denial. In a statement to Reuters, the former federal prosecutor in Tarrio's case, Vanessa Singh Johannes, confirmed that he cooperated with local and federal law enforcement to aid in the prosecution of those running other separate criminal enterprises, ranging from running marijuana grow houses in Miami to operating pharmaceutical fraud schemes. Okay, if this guy is actually going up against people, okay, never mind. This guy's going after weed smugglers. Are you kidding me? Cringe. Tarrio, 36, is a high-profile figure who organizes and leads the right-wing Proud Boys in their confrontations with those they believe to be Antifa, short for anti-fascism, an amorphous and often violent leftist movement. That's really poor wording. The Proud Boys were involved in the deadly insurrection at the Capitol, January 6th. The both-siderism is really bizarre, but the records uncovered by Reuters are startling because they show that a leader of a far-right group now under intense scrutiny by law enforcement was previously an active collaborator with criminal investigators. So I want to remind everyone that Enrique Tarrio took blame for the burning of a Black Lives Matter banner on, I believe, it was during that Million MAGA March bullshit cringe episode. And then, so this was, I think he turned himself in and confessed to it. Whether or not he actually did it, he took the fall 2 days before January 6th. Now, you're going to tell me Enrique Tarrio, the leader of a far-right militia, is going to turn himself into law enforcement 2 days or 3 days, it was a couple days, before January 6th, where people in the Proud Boys were storming the Capitol. To my estimation, it seems like the reading of Enrique Tarrio still being an FBI informant may or may not be the potentially more likely outcome of that one. Washington police arrested Tarrio in early January when he arrived at the city 2 days before the Capitol Hill riot. He was charged with possessing 2 high-capacity rifle magazines and burning a Black Lives Matter banner during a December demonstration by supporters of former President Donald Trump. I love those words, former President Donald Trump. The D.C. Superior Court ordered him to leave the city pending a court date in June. Though Tarrio did not take part in the Capitol insurrection, at least 5 Proud Boys members have been charged in the riot. The FBI previously said Tarrio's earlier arrest was an effort to preempt the events of January 6th. Well, an effort that failed tremendously. The transcript of 2014 shines a new light on Tarrio's past connections to law enforcement. During the hearing, the prosecutor and Tarrio's defense attorney asked a judge to reduce the prison sentence of Tarrio and 2 co-defendants. They had pleaded guilty in a fraud case related to relabeling and sale of stolen diabetes test kits. Jesus Christ. Like, there's a lot of ways to make money. But trying to kill people that have diabetes, I'm sorry, man. Like, come on. Like, there's a lot of ways to make money. Lacing drugs that you're going to sell to people, come on, man. There's a lot of ways to make money. Poisoning people, come on, man, right? So, the prosecutor said Tarrio's information had led... I don't know if you can hear the dogs. Can you hear the dogs? Okay, they stopped barking. The prosecutor said Tarrio's information had led to the prosecution of 13 people on federal charges in 2 separate cases and had helped local authorities investigate a gambling ring. What is a gambling ring? What does that mean? Tarrio's then lawyer, Jeffrey Filer, said in court that his client had worked undercover in numerous investigations, one involving the sale of anabolic steroids, another regarding wholesale prescription narcotics, and a third targeting human smuggling. He said Tarrio helped police uncover 3 marijuana grow houses and was a prolific cooperator. So this guy was basically, to my understanding, trying to kill people with diabetes, may have been participating in human smuggling, and then ratted people out for growing marijuana in their backyard. Sounds about right when it comes to a dumb motherfucker. In the smuggling case, Tarrio, at his own risk in an undercover role, met and negotiated to pay $11,000 to members of that ring to bring in fictitious family members of his from another country, the lawyer said in court. In an interview, Filer said he did not recall details about the case, but added the information I provided to the court was based on information provided to me by law enforcement and the prosecutor. An FBI agent at the hearing called Tarrio a key component in local police investigations involving marijuana, cocaine, and MDMA or ecstasy. Again, this guy is ratting out people for just having a good time. Like, that's some dumb bullshit. If it's like heroin or something, you know, maybe, right? Maybe I can understand a context where it's like, you know, all right, fine, right? But if it's like weed and like MDMA, I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Like, come on, like, you're just a bitch. There is no evidence Tarrio has cooperated with authorities since then. In interviews with Reuters, however, he said that before the rallies in various cities, he would let police departments know of the Proud Boys' plans. It is unclear if this is actually the case. He said he stopped this coordination after December 12th because the DC police had cracked down on the group. Now, again, like I said, every single time Proud Boys appear at anything, everywhere, right? I've been to these protests in person in 2018, 2019. I've been to these protests. I have been face-to-face with Proud Boys. I've been face-to-face with police. Every single time, the police are on the side of the Proud Boys up until the Proud Boys decide to start wreaking havoc in Washington, D.C. Such the extreme degree that they did in mid to late December and, of course, on January 6th. Tarrio on Tuesday acknowledged that his fraud sentence was reduced from 30 months to 16 months, but insisted that leniency was provided only because he and his co-defendants helped investigators clear up questions about his own case. He said he never helped investigate others. Well, that's interesting. The comment contrasts with statements made in court by the prosecutor, his lawyer, and the FBI. The judge in the case, Joan A. Leonard, said Tarrio provided substantial assistance to the investigation and prosecution of other persons involved in criminal conduct. As Trump supporters challenged the Republicans' election loss and often violent demonstrations, Tarrio stood out for his swagger as he led crowds of mostly white Proud Boys in a series of confrontations and street brawls in Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, and elsewhere. The Proud Boys, founded in 2016, began as a group protesting political correctness and perceived constraints on masculinity. That is untrue. It, from the inception, when Gavin McInnes founded it, was always, and always has been, a violent arm to enforce white supremacy, conservative values, which is just another way for saying that they hate Muslims and Jewish people and, gay people and so forth. The original rule set of the Proud Boys said and literally required that if you wanted to rank up, that is to say, if you want to go from a grunt to like some sort of leader or whatever, in order to rank up within the ranks of the Proud Boys, you needed to be arrested for violence with left-wing activists. You can go look this up, just search Gavin McInnes, Proud Boys or whatever. He's on Joe Rogan. He went through the whole handbook in like 2017 or something. So this is a group that was founded on white supremacy, founded on violence, and founded on hate. It did not begin as a group protesting political correctness. That is untrue. Reuters is lying to you here. So I just want to be very explicit about that. In September, their profile soared when Trump called on them to stand back and stand by. Tarrio, based in Miami, became the national chairman of the group in 2018. In November and December, Tarrio led the Proud Boys through the streets of D.C. after Trump's loss. Video shows him on December 11th with a bullhorn in front of a large crowd. To the parasites, both in Congress and in the stolen White House, he said, and in the stolen White House. But Trump was in the White House at the time. You want a war? You got one. The crowd roared. The next day, Tarrio burned the BLM banner. Now, it is unsure if he was actually the one doing that. I know he just took the fall. Former prosecutor Johannes said that she was surprised that the defendant she prosecuted for fraud is now a key player in a violent movement that sought to halt the certification of President Joe Biden. I knew he was a fraudster, but I had no reason to know he was also a domestic terrorist. So again, Reuters is not the greatest outlet in the world, but they're basically just taking these documents and just writing what they say. Now, if it comes out that they're fake news or whatever, then, it comes out that they're fake news. Clearly, the people at Reuters do not know the history of the Proud Boys, but there's a difference when it comes to detailing the history of a violent white supremacist terrorist organization and reading just FBI and court documents. When you read FBI and court documents, it's just, you write that and you put it in the article. But when you just don't know, like what happened 5 years ago or whatever, then clearly you're going to do this both siderism. So I just want to explain why I'm critical of this article while also taking it a little bit at face value, building in some of that critique that I know inevitably the dumb motherfuckers are going to put in the comments to the clip when I upload it. But yeah, really makes you think. Again, do I think that this is a grand conspiracy? No, I don't. But I think that this guy probably had connections, was definitely very familiar with how law enforcement operates, and that was key to his behavior over the course of the last couple of years. So that's my analysis of that.